Welcome back to Rocks in My Sandals. I'm Nick with another adventure. Diane and I are winging our way across the Atlantic to the UK. I have already been thoroughly and properly chastised for referring to our destination as simply England or Great Britain. To set the record straight, our itinerary is to fly into London and connect immediately to Edinburg, Scotland. Edinburg. That is if you want to sound like a local. As I gathered dates and times for our UK excursion, the second shoe dropped. We needed to secure business class seating for the 8.5-hour flight. Diane had experienced this on a prior flight to London with a friend. It has now become a must-have. It was a wonderland. The airport lounge, the cabin featured cute little private cubicles arranged 4 across, squeezed in right next to the 3 restrooms dedicated just to our exclusive domain. A flight attendant immediately set upon us, passing out glasses of real champagne while we stowed our bags. The cubicles were slightly larger than a vintage phone booth. I know I'm dating myself, but it's an apt description. Waiting for us was a set of quilted sheets to lay over our convertible seat bed, a plush pillow, a designer amenity kit, and even a pair of cozy socks and slippers we actually got to keep. Oh, and apparently bald-headed people are attracted to business class too. After connecting through Heathrow, we landed in Edinburg, the majestic capital of Scotland. The weather welcomed us with a typical gray, gusty day. I know with Texas wind, and this was its absolute equivalent, just vastly colder. Our local friends, Aaron and Nicole, met us at the airport and immediately drove us up to Rosslyn Chapel, founded in 1446. While the chapel is famous for many reasons, I was drawn by its mystic lore. Depending on which legend you believe, it is either the hiding place of the Holy Grail or the final resting place of Mary Magdalene. Movie buffs will also recognize it from Tom Hanks' The Da Vinci Code, 2006. We walked through the exact stone rooms used during filming, which felt incredibly surreal, and no, we didn't find the Grail. Next, we braved the elements of Craigmillar Castle, a medieval ruin dating back to the 14th century. The stronghold changed hands across several families over the generations until the Gilmore family moved into more modern lodgings in the 18th century, leaving the castle to turn into a romantic ruin. We battled the biting wind to reach the top of the parapet, where we were rewarded with a sweeping panoramic view of the Lothian landscape. My random thought was, imagine being a roofer at that time. First meal was at the Queen's Arms. Our friends insisted we try the haggis. We have a friend, Irene, a native from Scotland. She once described to me the contents and preparation of haggis, Scotland's national dish. From her description, it didn't sound like something I would enjoy, or consume for that matter. So I've always worked under the assumption that Nick will try anything once. The server brought out the traditional presentation of haggis, a brown pudding-like mound between mashed potatoes, tatties, no jokes please, and mashed neeps, those are turnips. Fearing the worst, I dove in and was pleasantly surprised. The haggis had a consistency of meatloaf, and the taste, I kid you not, of turkey stuffing. Very tasty. The following day, we hopped onto one of Edinburgh's efficient double-decker transit buses to explore the historic old town. Our target was the Royal Mile, starting at St. Giles Cathedral. On our way, we were met by a rousing piper holding forth a large crowd of toe-tapping onlookers. The Royal Mile is exactly 1 mile from Edinburg Castle to the Holyroot Palace at the other end. We quickly learned just how deeply the British royal family is rooted in Scottish history. The modern Windsors trace their lineage back to the House of Stuart, who ruled Scotland between 1371 and 1714. Because of this bond, when Queen Elizabeth II passed away in 2022, she was first brought to lie in state at Holyroot House before her funeral service here at St. Giles. Built by King David I in 1124, St. Giles has been a working church for over 900 years. Inside, the soaring height of the ribbed ceiling and the vibrant kaleidoscope stained glass take your breath away. It also serves as a profoundly moving memorial to fallen military personnel, with poignant tributes carved into the walls and floors. From the cathedral, we met our guide for Edinburg Castle. Our guide, an Australian named David, used brilliant historical context and sharp humor to escort us across the volcanic fortress grounds. As one of the oldest fortified sites in Europe, the castle sits atop a sheer volcanic crag, offering a commanding view stretching all the way to the North Sea coast. Iron Age tribes first occupied this stronghold around 900 BC, and it has changed hands violently throughout Scotland since life shifted down the road. Remarkably, it remains a functioning military base today. At the castle's highest point sits St. Margaret's Chapel, the oldest surviving building in Edinburgh. Named for King David I's charitable mother, it has become the national war memorial honoring those in global conflicts, keeping their names in sacred books where new entries are still added today. We also explored the grim stone vaults of the Crown Prison, which once held 1,000 captive soldiers for the American Revolution. David pointed out a fascinating gem carved inside a wooden cell door is the earliest known depiction of the American flag in Europe. The following day, we returned to the bottom of the Royal Mile to tour the Palace of Holyroot House with audio guides. The site began as Holyroot Abbey in 1128, founded by King David I after he witnessed a mystical vision of a stag with a glowing cross, or rood, between its antlers. Construction on the palace began in 1501. When James VI of Scotland inherited the English crown in 1603, he moved his court to Windsor Castle in London, leaving Holyrood largely abandoned until the monarchy was restored in 1660. It wasn't until King George V visited in 1903 the palace was finally modernized with electricity and central heating. Today, King Charles III still uses Holyrood House for official state ceremonies. While the exterior boasts dramatic, somber Gothic architecture, the state apartments inside feel surprisingly grand and functional. We toured the Great Gallery, lined with portraits of Scottish royalty, the massive dining room, the King's Privy Chamber, where world leaders are still received today. Stepping back outside, we explored the skeletal, romantic ruins of the original 12th century abbey. The palace is surrounded by manicured lawns, vibrant royal gardens, and a massive park, providing a peaceful, majestic end to our day's adventure. Day 3 began with our friends taking us to North Berwick. On the way, we stopped for breakfast at a place called The Drift. I, for one, am really into recycling. Naturally, I was thrilled to see the owners had used several metal shipping containers to construct their restaurant on a cliff edge. It offers an amazing view of the windswept beach below. Down the road sat Tantallon Castle, an amazing ruin with a breathtaking view of the coastline and the Firth of Forth. I love saying that. Built around 1358 on a cliff top, it was the historic home of the Douglas family. It was subjected to sieges in 1491, 1528, and ultimately by Oliver Cromwell in 1651. Cromwell used an excessive amount of cannon fire to demolish most of the castle we see today. Some walls were 13 feet thick, and 7-story gun towers were reduced to 4. Still, they held off most of Cromwell's army until the stones started to fall, allowing his guys to take the place. You could still walk all the way up via some pretty tight circular stairs to get a genuine sense of castle life. Once atop the parapets, you get a sweeping view of the coast. We then rode our way into North Berwick, a wonderful little coastal town with a harbor straight out of Dockmartin. Unfortunately, North Berwick is also famous for its witch trials, 1590 to 1592. Back then, the typical strategy for getting rid of your uppity women was to label them a witch. The townspeople would promptly remedy the situation by hanging or burning them at the stake. Today, North Berwick's natural harbor serves a much friendlier purpose as a landing for ferries running across the Firth of Forth to Anstruther in Fife. The Industrial Revolution completely bypassed the town, allowing it to evolve into a premier golf and vacation spot. On our last day in Scotland, we absolutely had to do a formal afternoon tea at Prestonfield House. This stunning estate, now a hotel, originated as a monastery back in 1150, but was burned down during an anti-Catholic riot in 1681. A man named James Dick, not kidding, bought what was left and turned it into an estate around 1687. We were met by an extensive menu of tea selections alongside 2 courses of sandwiches and desserts. We could order pots of any or all of the Tees as often as we wanted. Utterly stuffed, we attempted to walk it off around the front parkland. There, we encountered Scottish Highland cattle indigenous to the region. They are big, hairy cows, some sporting serious longhorn-style horns. Thanks again for watching Rocks in My Sandals. Join us again for Part 2, the Irish Republic.